with yourself, what I want to really dive into is the story that shaped Andy, the
Hmm.
journey that you were on, and
Hmm.
um, very remarkable to observe. And I know a lot of the little things that went into it. I know a lot of the times that were very interesting. Um, and I myself saw like enormous transformation that's almost unbelievable. But in this interview today, I want to put some coherence behind it and kind of, like I've been able to observe with some others, I want to try and map out the journey, if you
Hmm.
like. So
Let's do it.
before we start, how comfortable are you with compliments?
8.5 out of 10. I'd like to get to a 10. 8.5 out of
Mm,
10.
okay, okay. So I'm gonna throw some your way. So Andy, I think you have an exceptional leader. I think you have an incredible energy that draws people in, that sucks people in. I think you have the ability to make other people believe in themselves, even if they don't see it. Their capacity to go beyond where they are. I think you have an exceptional strong-mindedness and ability to evolve that is really uncanny. An open-mindedness and an ability to evolve in paradigms and entertain a vision for the future that may be far beyond the scope, but you are able to move towards weaving it in a way that's just quite stellar. And observing that has been a absolute privilege. And I thank you for having these incredible characteristics in yourself because this is what's made other people's transformation possible. So I wanted just to say that I greatly appreciate those things about you.
So here's where we have to have a big conversation, already going into deep topics here. Is it something to be appreciated?
Hmm.
Did I necessarily, was I born with those characteristics? Did I foster them? Where did they come from? I don't have an answer. I don't know. And even as you're saying everything, first of all, thank you for the compliments. I really appreciate them. As you're saying them, I can't help but feel a huge amount of gratitude myself. It's like, where did my tenacity come from? I don't know. I can throw that back at you. Why do you work so hard? Do you know?
Hmm.
Like, where does that come from?
Hmm. It's interesting to note that I have a very similar perspective in as much as you can see in your development as you go on this journey. I remember pivotal moments. I remember influences I had. I remember looking at people's examples,
Mm.
and I remember there being some drive there before, but there
Hmm.
also being a lot that obscured it.
Yes.
You know,
A lot of bullshit in the way.
mm, a lot of bullshit in the way. And I think for me, and it'd be curious to get your perspective. The drive to self improvement, the drive for a better life, the drive to
Hmm.
be the very best I can be. There was something there at an early age. I can
Hmm.
recall that. Whether it came to the fore or not, no. But life was an incredible teacher to me. The struggles, the strains,
Yeah.
through the gauntlet, through the difficulties I had, I almost had to forge an exceptional work ethic.
Hmm.
And for that, I'm glad. I'm actually grateful.
Yeah. So that's where yours came from. It seems like it was almost a an adaptation to circumstance. I have a friend who's extremely observant to the point like he's probably the most observant person I've ever met. And the reason he was like that was because he came from a family that lied to him all the time. And so when he was about 8, he figured out, like, I think my family's gaslighting me all the time. And so, as almost a defense mechanism or as an adaptation, he had to be like crazy, crazy, crazy observant. It sounds
Mm,
like you're the same with your work ethic. I think I was the same with my optimism. And, you said
mm,
before that I was open minded. That came from being so close minded and being so negative and seeing what it got me, which was absolute misery for about, I don't know, 10 or so years, and thinking, what happens if I try the exact opposite? I've tried being a miserable son of a bitch for 10 years and I just wanted to kill myself for 10 years. What happens if I try just being so over the top optimistic that I refuse to see bad in the world? What happens then? And I tell you, nothing but
mm,
good things happen. And then you think, well, okay, well, this is a much better coping mechanism or a much better lens through which to view the world, optimism versus negativity. So a lot of the stuff I
mm.
think is like a direct adaptation to circumstances rather than something we're born with. And again, like I'm
Mm.
bringing this back to the word that I said at the start. I can't help but be grateful for my qualities, the things that I have. Early on, I used to say like, no, I worked really hard. Fuck you, I earned this. And I used to have a very sort of like anger towards anyone saying that I was lucky, or, you know, if someone said, you're lucky that your parents are still together, you're lucky you're tall, you're lucky you're white. I took it very personally. I took it as a sort of, you know, an attack, or I took it as them taking away credit from all the work that I've done. But as I've matured and as I've, you know, gone through this process a little more, I can't help but just be grateful for everything and acknowledge like, yeah, I am lucky I'm white. Yeah, it is cool that, not that other races can't get laid and all that bullshit, but you get my point. I'm grateful for the gifts that I have. And I think that just comes once you get to your goals, once you achieve a few things. I think you can't help but be grateful for what you have in life. Whereas at the
Mm.
start, you have all this pride and this sort of like ego that says like, no, I've earned everything. Nothing was luck. Nothing was given to me. It's that sort of like lone wolf, chip on the shoulder, me against the world.
Mm.
But I think you let go of that as you get a little further through this journey.
Mm. And this is something that I don't want to take away in any regards to the work you put in, because it is absolutely unbelievable. You moved the mountains, you really did. And where I am in my journey, I would it'd be an impossibility for me to see anything other than the incredible fortitude, the incredible resilience, the difficulties that you did face, the emotional challenges. Dude, this stuff claims people, and you just
Yeah.
got through, and that's what's so remarkable. So, as far as like, you know, any that's the most overwhelming thing. That's the thing that shines through everything else. And people will see different things in different people's journeys,
Hmm.
and different people will resonate with different kind of journeys. But for myself, um, that background and what you had to overcome and endure, and to do so in a way which is at this moment, um, I see so much like actualization and so much maturity as an individual, um, which for me really highlights the importance of delving in at this moment and really taking a step back, and if you like, maybe moving back in the decades and just giving the viewers of this interview a bit of a vision and flavor for Andy's formation,
Hmm.
Andy's early years. I'd like you to go back and tell us a little bit about the young Andy. Andy in his childhood. Tell us a little bit about how you were, what life was like.
Those are okay. So that question is actually two separate questions with two completely different answers, even though you said it as one question. So, what life was like? Life was actually pretty good. I had a pretty good childhood. My parents loved each other to bits. They still do. Pretty much everyone in my family was together. I saw a lot of healthy relationships. I saw a lot of love, like a divorce here and there, but most of my childhood was very good. I had grandparents who absolutely adored me. I had lots of friends. I went to a decent school. You know, I had a pretty good childhood. But then the second question you asked was, what was Andy like? I was depressed. I was really, really, really depressed. I think a big part of that was school. I'm not someone that does well with being told what to do. I'm not someone that does. Imogen, my girlfriend, jokes all the time. Nobody can ever tell you what to do. And so the last 2 years with side topic, but the last 2 years with all the sort of laws and, you know, that virus that shall not be named and all of that, that's been very amusing for me. Trying people telling me what to do and all that, but that's a separate topic. So I'm not someone that did well in school. I felt like it was prison. I felt like I'd been sentenced to a 13-year prison sentence and I wasn't sure what for. I felt like I was gaslit because everybody else seemed to accept it and say like, school's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with going to school. We all go to school. And I was like, am I crazy here? Am I taking crazy pills? On top of that, I didn't particularly like most of the topics that were taught. I thought they were a complete waste of time. I didn't understand why I couldn't just go and get a job. I did get a job when I was about 12, an illegal job that I wasn't supposed to have because you can't work before you're 14, but I found a way. And I think my coping mechanism there was, and I also got bullied a fair bit at school. I think my coping mechanism was video games, computer programming, more video games, and a lot of porn. I found porn when I was about 12 years old, and that was probably my, gateway drug to everything else. And that led me down a path of like deep, deep, deep depression. I'll fast forward basically over the next like 8 years. I got more and more depressed. I was in 2 toxic relationships that were just absolutely fucking miserable. Absolutely miserable. They were horrible. I was equally horrible, maybe more so. And it just wasn't it wasn't a very loving relationship. I cheated on them a bunch of times. I suspect they cheated on me, although I could just be projecting there. It just wasn't particularly happy. I developed agoraphobia to the point where I literally couldn't go outside. I remember there were multiple times that I would get my girlfriends at the time to have to go and check the mail for me because I literally couldn't walk to the front door to check, like to the mailbox to check the mail. They had to do the shopping. I got so bad that I ended up losing my job, and I had about $25,000 of savings. I burned through that in about 6 months, and then I was like, basically like, I'm going to go homeless. And there's no way that I can tell my parents because I'd have to admit I haven't worked my job. I'd have to admit that my relationship wasn't working. I'd have to admit that I was depressed and that I'd hid that for like, at this point, like 8 or 9 or 10 years. And it basically all came out that, one of the girlfriends broke up with me. And at that point, my life just fell apart. And I didn't really have a choice but to tell my parents. And that was simultaneously the hardest thing I've ever done and also the most beautiful thing I've ever done. Because it was the first time I ever asked for help. And it was the first time someone opened or welcomed me with open arms and said, I accept that you're a flawed human being. That's okay. We can fix this. And I remember my mother saying those exact words, like, we can fix this. The only way, you've hit rock bottom. The only way forward is up now. Like, you have to fix your life. And so I did what Jordan Peterson in his wonderful book, 12 Rules for Life says. I made my bed. I did little tasks every single day, the slight edge. I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit. I would make my bed. I would do the chores. I would wash the dishes. Just very meaningless or seemingly meaningless things. But they brought me some sense of like a purpose. And to be fair, my parents had to make me do that shit. I didn't want to do that. I moved back home with them. I fell apart. I went to a counselor, all that sort of stuff, and they forced me. They said, you have to just do something every day. It doesn't matter what it is, you have to do something. From there, after, building a habit of literally making my fucking bed, they said, okay, we're going to give you some chores to do every day. I would mow the lawn. I would, do the washing. I'd do the laundry. I'd clean the entire house. I'd do all that kind of stuff. From there, after a couple of weeks, they said, all right, you're going to have to get a job now. And so we sat down. My dad forced me to do it, or helped me. Forced me, and I'm grateful for him to forcing me. Forced me to do a resume. Forced me to go and hand it out to people. Basically forced me to get a job. From there, I started socializing with people, which was fucking hard at the start, man. That was really fucking hard. To go from agoraphobic and literally not able to leave the house to having to actually hold down a job and shit, fuck me, that was hard. That was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. And then from there, made some friends. I just hit the ground running from there. I absolutely fucking went mental. I know that you yourself are someone who goes all in with your goals and you understand the value of obsession. Holy shit, man, I was obsessed. My answer to my lack of like social life was like, okay, so I literally can't go outside. I literally can't talk to people. What if I go to bars and clubs 6 nights a week by myself? And I don't know where that fucking thought came from because that was the most terrifying thing ever. But that fucking worked, man. I would make friends with girls. I made friends with the barman. I made friends with all the waiters. I made friends with just like random drunk people offering me drugs. It was like a whole, different world that I'd never seen before. And my little fucking innocent Andy mind was like, holy shit, this is like an entire world I've missed out on. At this point, I was like, 23, 24. From there, I got back into another bad relationship. So my second toxic relationship, my mental state was better, but it went down over the next 4 years. And I got to a point where I realized I've just jumped back into the same situation that I was in before. I did all this work to heal myself, and now I'm in another toxic relationship. Why have I done this? And, big shout out to the Red Pill. I was doing a lot of reading and I found the Red Pill, and a lot of their advice resonated with me. And the thing that hit me the most was like, your happiness has to come first. And after reading the Red Pill for about, 3 to 6 months, I was like, I have to break up with her. Like, I'm not happy. She's not happy. We're not good for each other. And I remember her making dinner, and I just said, I can't do this anymore. And I remember her yelling at me and going like, shut your fucking, like, what are you fucking talking about? And I was like, no, listen, I'm being serious. I'm done. And I remember her just like completely stopping, all the anger left. She was like, wait, are you serious? And I was like, yeah, I can't, this can't be me anymore. I can't be this unhappy. At this point, I was like 28, and I was like, I can see my 30s coming. And I could see a world in which I just stay in this relationship for the rest of my life. And I was very much at a crossroads. I could see, the red pill as in self-improvement, the manosphere, hitting the gym, losing weight, talking to girls, all that. I could see that over here. And then on the other side, I could see like complacency with her. And I had to make a choice. And I chose the very scary choice of like, okay, I'm going to sink or swim. I have to go my own way. I have to figure out what to do here. I can't be complacent. This can't be my life. And so from there, I lost 77 pounds, started talking to women. Holy shit, that was difficult. Started going to the gym for the first time in my entire life. Did a bunch of shit. Got laid a lot. Found some amazing women. Met a bunch of amazing women. Found my girlfriend. We've been together for about 4 years now. We're in an open relationship. We date girls together. Absolutely fucking beautiful human being. I've built a coaching business. I've helped God knows how many people at this point. I've lost count. We've built a forum. You're on those forums. You're one of the celebrities on those forums. So I'm in a very beautiful position. I'm in a very beautiful place now. And it does feel like I had to go through the fires of hell to get here. And that only makes the victory all the more sweeter. And I know you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. When you go through hell and you get to that point, man, it's fucking beautiful when you get there. It's so fucking glorious. Every single second of pain you went through is worth it. Yeah. Every single second of hell. It's like, yeah, it doesn't matter because I'm here. I'd do it all again times 10 if I could get back to this place. If you made me start again and said you have to go through all that, except it's going to be literally 10 times longer this time, and it's going to hurt 10 times more, yeah, fuck it, let's get started. Because I know what this victory is like.
That's it. That's incredible, Andy. I love that so much, more than you could know. And, so many of the twists, the turns, so many of the nuances of this, the precipitating factors, the insight that you had when you went all in when you were 23, when you built structure into your life, when you forced yourself to take on the approach of little micro habits, so many of the things that you've shared here built a wonderful platform for your journey moving forward. And it feels like the timing was very, very critical as you were just entering your 30s. The factors surrounding it, discovering some of the manosphere, discovering some of the red pill, and opening your mind to the possibility that actually there is an entirely different framework you could adopt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what I want to now get into is a little bit of that framework. So we understand there is these wonderful formative experiences that take place where you start to have structure, where you start to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. And believe me, having been agoraphobic myself, I know intimately that process. When you are housebound, it is a fucking scary place to be. It is one of the most cruel disorders I think a human being can possibly ever experience. The game of contracting circles as your world gets smaller and smaller, and you become so helpless. You become dependent on other human beings. You go from a man, which is a creature, which is a remarkable creature that has built the modern world, that has contributed incredible things, the most dominant creature this world has ever seen, to pretty much giving your power away and being a anxious, frail, vulnerable puppy that's too scared to live and too scared to die. But in that process, there is courage. In that process of moving back into the world, there is bravery. And it truly is the most remarkable victory when you know in your heart of hearts, I beat this shit. You highlight that?
Yeah, for sure, dude. It feels fucking good, doesn't it? It feels ridiculously good.
Andy, man, like you'll know about my person, the coaching group. So I moved to London not too long ago, and at that point, it's just been more and more success, more and more growth. But to get to that moment where I moved, man, and I was like just driving down, and it was like a 2 hour drive to come down here with all my stuff in the car. I was just crying the whole way. I can't believe I'm here from that hell a few years ago where I
Yeah.
was so anxious. I was destroyed as a person. Look at me now. Look at me now. I'm going to do all those things I dreamed about when I was agoraphobic and I was stuck and I couldn't move forward. And I just dreamed there's got to be a better life out there. This cannot be it. And now I'm there. And these are these wonderful wins that other people, and sometimes when you are where you are now, and maybe some can't quite capture the gravity of those things, because not everyone will experience anxiety disorders at that level, but for those who've been through that and come over to the other side, every second of life is beautiful. It is bliss.
Mm.
But Andy, now to get to the question of, you've had these formative experiences, you've had these lessons learned, you've had these insights, you're beginning to form your principles, which, a lot of us are really deeply embedded in now. But what I want to really capture, Andy, the next question for you is, as you were entering self-improvement and you have just made a decision, there's two options: there's
Hmm.
complacency, or there is the warrior's path, which is going to be a difficult ride, but you're willing to climb the mountain. What was your
Yeah.
action plan? What did your typical day look like?
So, like I said, the action plan at the very start was just whatever my parents gave me, and I'm eternally blessed to them. So, for someone who wants to, pull themselves out of depression or suicidal thoughts or agoraphobia or any sort of rut, just start with something every day. Just do something. If you can go and, let's say you're in a decent place, you can go to the gym. Start by going to the gym. Maybe you're in a worse place and you can't go to the gym. Okay. Every day, just go for a 5 minute walk. Okay. If you're in a place where you literally can't go for a 5 minute walk, that's too much pressure or too much stress. Okay. Make your bed every day. There's always something you can do. No matter where you are in life, no matter how fucking shit things are. I've interviewed someone who had chronic fatigue syndrome so bad that he literally couldn't get out of bed and couldn't even move his hands half of the time. And he was that way for months. And what he figured out through his own meditation and really just being humbled by the whole experience of not being able to get out of bed, what he figured out was like, okay, if there's something I can do every day, that's a victory. If I can literally just text my best mate and say, mate, hey, how's your day going? And that's it. That's all I can fucking send. That's better than nothing. And that applies to everyone. No matter where you are in life, there's always something you can do. So start with the smallest possible thing you can do, and then add on top of that every day. And aim to be just 1% or 0.5% better than you were the day before. That was sort of my action plan. In terms of what a typical day looked like at that point in time, a typical day was a whole lot of fear. A whole lot of going, I have no choice, but I have to push through this because I can't go back. I don't want to go back to where I am. As my mother said to me, the only path is up. So you'd feel the fear, you'd jump through it, and then every single time I felt better. It didn't take me long. It took me maybe a month or two before I realized if I just face the fear, first of all, it's never as bad as what I could possibly envision, ever. Your fears are always worse than reality, always, 100%. That's the way the mind works. It's supposed to think of the scariest possible thing to keep you safe. The problem is that in this pretty safe world that we live in, your mind kind of goes crazy with anxiety and worry about things that aren't really actually ever going to hurt you. There's no lions about to eat most of us. You're not really going to have a car accident unless you're really unlucky. Things are pretty fucking safe. So facing those fears. And then the second thing I figured out was when you dive through the fear, the reward is always 10,000 times better than the fear. Like it more than makes up for the terror or the anxiety or the self-consciousness or the insecurity or the doubt or any of that sort of shit. So I got addicted to the process of self-improvement. I got addicted to the process of running towards my fears. And the further along I got, my days, the template of each day was roughly the same and still is to this day. Every day, it's like, what am I scared of today? Okay, I'm going to do that thing. There aren't many days where I don't do something I'm scared of. Like, I can't remember the last day. And that's even now when I'm pretty fucking chill and I'm pretty relaxed. I will still find things that, make me nervous or fearful or terrified. And I will say, fuck it, I have to do that. I have no choice. I have to do that. Because I've built such a habit of it's like a podcast I did. One of the first podcasts I ever did was Run Towards Fear. And that's very much been the template of most of my days. That's what a typical day is. Feel some fear, feel nervous about something, run towards it. Because if you're doing that every day, you are growing. By definition, you're growing. If you do something either challenging or difficult or scary or something you know, feel a lot of fear about, if you face that every day, you will grow. Like, guaranteed.
This is amazing. And I have lived this firsthand, you know, very
You
well.
have.
Yes. Recently, Andy, you know, just being on the front lines for weeks and weeks and weeks, and
Mm-hmm.
that brought growth like you wouldn't believe,
Yep.
you know. And this is the quite incredible thing is those feelings of discomfort I've noticed, and living in that discomfort and just moving yourself way beyond where you were comfortable. I was comfortable back home with my parents for a couple of years. I was comfortable with this narrative. Well, at least I've got a career. At least I've got hobbies and friends. I was comfortable. I looked at myself in the mirror and saw an obese person staring back. I saw a mess. I saw unmet needs, but I was comfortable. And in entering the process, entering the grind, entering the process of self improvement, following the roadmap laid out by yourself, by Radical, by my brothers in the community at Kill You and Loser, there was a lot of discomfort there. But living in it and simply coming to the concrete conclusion that I'm not going back. I'm not
Yeah.
going back to that hill. This is the only option for me. I have nowhere else to go. I'm going to make it or die trying. And this is where you embrace the grind. Andy, you begin to embrace the grind as you embody really wonderfully there. You understand that in that discomfort, there is growth. In running towards fear, there is growth on the other side. And what I want to understand at this moment is you highlight that you were addicted to self improvement.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to understand, like, where that insight came. Were the wins that precipitated that when you were embracing the suck and you were going way beyond where you were previously comfortable, and all of a sudden you're starting to achieve little wins? Because from my perspective, we understand the principles of allowing yourself to suck, the slight edge,
Mm-hmm.
and these are like life-changing concepts. But I think you touched on that really well there. So I just want you to maybe highlight, um, were there any wins that really cemented that for you?
I think the first win that comes to mind. Okay. So the first win would have been, like I said, doing the to-do lists that my parents gave me. So doing the chores, washing the dishes, making my bed, vacuuming the floor, the really basic shit. Just getting that weird little or that tiny little dopamine hit when you literally tick something off. Because they gave me a physical list and I would tick each item off. That tiny weird little dopamine hit from that was like, okay, this is what it feels like to actually achieve something. This is what it feels like to, as Jordan Peterson says, create order out of chaos. This is what it feels like to move the atoms in the universe into a slightly more ordered configuration that feels nice to look at. I made something. I changed something. I created some beauty. I did some good, and that can start on such a tiny scale. Like I'm saying, literally just making your fucking bed. There's a reason that Jordan Peterson put that in there. He knows his fucking shit. He's almost as smart. I joke all the time. He's almost as smart as my mother because she technically told me that before he read his book. So that was my first actual win. But the one that really comes to mind was tackling the agoraphobia. So I remember there was a day when I don't know why, but I thought, I think I can do this. I think I can go outside. And I was at my parents' place. It was only a couple of weeks after, I'd had the breakdown, broken up with my girlfriend. My life fell apart. And for some reason, I thought, I can do it today. And so I remember going for a walk. And I told myself, if I just go for a walk for 1 minute, that's good enough. If I leave the front door and walk outside for 1 minute, and there was no people around, my parents live in a small country town. So, I didn't even have to be around people. But if I go outside for 1 minute, that's a victory. And I remember walking outside, and then after 1 minute, I was like, I think I could just keep walking. And so I walked for a little bit more, 5 more minutes. I walked past some people, and I'm like, I could keep going. Like, I'm safe. And this is the basis of exposure therapy. It's a clinical concept of, especially for something like agoraphobia, but a lot of other things, a lot of fears. If you can just expose the person to a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of the thing they fear, they realize nothing bad happens. And then if you expose them to a little bit more, nothing bad happens. A tiny bit more, nothing bad happens. Before you know it, you've exposed them to the entire thing. You've got them out in public talking to strangers or something. Nothing bad happens, and they go, shit, okay. But you don't want to just throw them straight into the deep end. You wouldn't want to make them go to a shopping center and say, like, okay, go talk to 10 people, because they'll have a fucking meltdown. So anyway, back to the story. I walked a little further, a little further, a little further. Before I knew it, I was at the shopping center. And it's a big, busy shopping center. You know, there's a bunch of people, hundreds, thousands of people in there. And I'm thinking, like, should I just go in? And I remember having this sort of like panic attack. And I was like, I can't go inside. There's lots of people. You know, it's been ages since I was around people. Like, I can't do this. And I thought, no, what if I just go inside for 30 seconds and leave? Go inside 30 seconds. I'm having a panic attack, but nobody's looking at me, because that was my big paranoid fear, was that people were going to say I'm a freak, or they're going to look at me, or they're going to yell at me, or whatever it was. I had all sorts of irrational fears, as we all do. And I stayed there. I ended up walking around. I remember walking to the grocery store, and I said, I'm going to buy one item, and I'm going to say hello to the checkout chick or the clerk. And I remember saying hello, and she's like, hi, how's your day going? And I was like, good. And that was it. Like, that was the fucking conversation. I remember, like, my heart beating, like, oh my God, I'm going to die. She's going to ask me some question I don't know the answer to, or she's going to tell me to get out of the store, or my credit card is going to get declined, because this is part of agoraphobia. You build up a lot of fears as to why you can't go outside, or she's going to say the F-post machine is down, you can only pay with cash, you know, all this sort of insane shit. It goes well. I remember leaving, and I'm walking out of the shopping center, and I start walking home, and I remember, like, just being filled with this, like, immense sense of, like, gratitude and, like, love and, yeah, gratitude to the universe, and especially to my mother. And so I picked up the phone, I called my mother, she's at work, and I said, like, Mom, guess what? And she says, like, what? And I said, guess where I am? And she's like, I don't know, like, where are you? And I was like, I'm outside. And she's like, oh, that's wonderful, honey. Like, where? And I was like, I went to the shopping center. And she's like, what, really? But like yesterday, you couldn't, really? And I was like, yeah, I walked around, I talked to people. Oh my God, I said hello to someone. And so I remember that being the first really big win, like the first massive win that made me think, like, oh, fuck, I can do this. And then the next big win would be going to the clubs, you know, 6 nights a week, making a bunch of friends. I remember, here's the next big win, telling my counselor, she said, like, what have you been doing to talk to people? And I remember just saying it, like, really flippantly, because at this point I'd been doing it for like a month. I said, like, oh, I've been, like, going to some clubs and stuff. And she's like, oh, really? That's amazing. Like, that's amazing. It's only been like 2 months or something. That's insane. Like, who have you been going with? And I said, like, no one, just me. And she's like, what? I was like, no, I was, you know, like 6 nights a week, I'm just going to the clubs by myself so I can associate with people and talk to people. And I remember her just going like, no, listen, this is insane. Nobody does that. Normal people don't do that. People who don't have agoraphobia don't do that. People who are very socially lubricated and very, you know, giving, extrovert, social people don't do that. And I was like, oh, really? And she's like, yeah, no, this is insane. Like, this is insane. I wouldn't do, you couldn't pay me any amount of money to do that. And I remember that being a moment where I was like, so I can do stuff that normal people can't do. That was like the first fucking pivotal moment where I realized I'm not just like worse than other people. I have the potential to be more courageous than other people. And that was a turning point. Because from that point, I stopped doubting anything that was possible. That was like the real moment where I was like, I can do crazy shit. Like whatever insane shit I want to do, I can do it. I just have to do it. There's nothing in me that's broken. There's nothing in me that's worse than other human beings. There's nothing in me that's undeserving. There's nothing in me that is bad or wrong or, you know, faulty. And I know that was a big point for you as well with your first lay, was realizing like, holy shit, this girl likes me. She's really nice to me. We had a lot of fucking amazing times together. We built this intimacy. The sex was amazing. I deserve this. I'm not worse than other human beings. In fact, a lot of other human beings probably couldn't do what I just did. Certainly not all the weight loss and stuff. Holy shit, I deserve as much as everyone else. So, yeah, that was probably the biggest moment for me, and I would think probably for you.
It certainly was for me. It certainly was without question. Without question, man. It's the coming into contact with a reality that is one that you thought may have not been attainable in those fleeting moments of self-doubt. And it's entering that.
Sorry,
Sorry,
you go. I
Uh,
interrupted you on your podcast like a piece of shit.
no, it is a worthy interruption. It is the interplay of a reality you didn't think would be a possibility for you, and all of a sudden you breaking through to the other side and realizing, no, I can do this shit despite what my mind
Yeah.
tells me.
Yeah, there's a really good book I'm halfway through right now called Love is Letting Go of Fear. And he talks about the concept that most of us think that our emotions are reactions, as in, we think that we feel angry because someone cut us off in traffic, or we think that we feel sad because our girlfriend breaks up with us. When in reality, or what really happens is you shape reality by the way you look at it. Or in other words, you shape reality with your emotions. If you are sad, reality is going to fucking suck. If you are angry, everybody's going to be a dick to you. If you are a really loving, generous, kind person, for some reason, everybody will be really nice and loving and kind to you. And so we have it completely backwards in society that we think society is the cause, or the outside world is the cause, external things are the cause, and they affect our internal emotions or beliefs or any of that sort of shit. No, it's the exact polar opposite. And so I know I was going through life with a very negative framing. I call it like a lens, like the lens, magnifying lens or something that you're looking through life through. I had a very negative lens. I know you did. And the world
Hmm.
fucking sucked. The world was
Hmm.
shit to you. And the world was shit to me. It was pretty shit to both of us because we were
Hmm.
very negative. We were bringing in negativity. We were, more importantly, putting out negativity. And any people who are, positive, generous, loving people are going to run away from negativity. I mean, how many podcasts have I done? I know you've talked about it on yours, about the concept that you want to focus on people who are loving. You want to try and screen out negative people. We were the negative people. And then we
Yep.
sat there and wonder why no positive, wonderful, loving people want to be around us. Why the fuck would they? They've got better people to spend their time with, or better, they have better ways to spend their time.
That's it. It's it. And what an incredibly empowering piece of understanding to come to. The
Mm-hmm.
most transcendental piece of knowledge that you could ever come into contact with.
Yep, it's all you. I mean, it's what all the woo-woo hippie people say when they say you are God, or you are the universe, or the universe extends out from you. These are all different ways of saying you're fully in control. Or in a
Mhm.
more pragmatic sense, people like Jocko Willink and Jordan Peterson, they say extreme ownership, or good-looking
Mm.
loser, and my community and yourself. We say take action. These are all ways of saying you can completely change the outside world, or change how the outside world reacts to you or treats you by taking action, by doing things, by taking ownership, by looking at yourself as the center, by looking at your emotions, by getting your own shit together, by being nice to other people. These are all different ways of saying the universe is a mirror and it will hold up, or it will reflect back your own internal state. If you're in a shitty mood, the water's going to fucking suck. If you're in a great mood, man, the water's lovely because you ignore all the negatives. If you're in a great mood, you don't give a shit that someone cuts you off in traffic. In fact, you will literally think, I really hope he gets to where he needs to go. He's probably a bit busier than me. I really hope he gets there. But if you're in a bad mood, you go, fuck this guy. Why is everyone cutting me off? You'll honk the horn, he'll honk back. Now you're in a bit of drama. Now the drive sucks. Now you're angry till you get to the office. Now your boss will say, like, hey, can you get those papers to me by Monday? Fuck this. Why is my boss telling me what to do? Fuck this. Like, and that all came from you. Those external events had nothing to do. They were just triggers for your own internal, anger or negative thoughts, or insecurities, whatever it is. So you're right. It is a fucking empowering mindset, isn't it? You're literally saying,
It,
I'm God. I can shape the world.
it is it, and it's been part of our culture's understanding. It's been part of culture's understanding in bygone eras. It was very sacred knowledge in human
Mm-hmm.
history. It was coveted, and it was contained in the mystery schools and the various spiritual texts. You can find these references to this understanding that um, as below, as above. And
Mm-hmm.
it's really palpable when you're on the self improvement journey. It is really visceral. I'm very transparent about where I was. I'm very transparent about my failures. I'm very transparent about why that happened. I had anxiety from young age. I had, different precipitating factors. It created some distortions in my thinking, in my worldview. It created certain beliefs about women, being not attracted to me not being good
Mhm.
enough. Then an anger began to bloom that was ever present, even when I was taking action like crazy and going out and approaching, sometimes in enormous scores of women. But there was underneath the surface, there was that embitterment, resentment,
Mhm.
and it drove at some level me to self-sabotage. It drove me to throw a spanner in the works because I wanted to hold on to those beliefs and experience that the
Yeah.
extremes of that emotion, because it's an
Yeah.
intoxicating emotion. Is Rage can drive you, man. Let me tell you,
Oh
rage can
man,
drive
it's
you.
addictive. You get a hard
It
on.
is.
That's why they call it righteous anger. And I say this to a lot of
Mm,
people when I can see that they're doing exactly what you're talking about, where they're being angry and self-sabotaging. I say, do you want to be angry or do you want to be happy? Or another way of phrasing that is, when a guy's sitting there justifying and he's saying, but these bitches are flaking on me, they're pissing me off, they're all entitled. You say, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Are you going to let go of all these, bullshit notions that you have, these ego, this pride, like all this crap saying like, women suck, women should change, women
mm,
should do this, women should
mm.
that. Do you want to hold on to that shit? Or do you just want to meet a woman and have a nice time? Pick one. Because you're going to drive all the women away with that attitude. And I know that you're someone that had that attitude. I sure as shit did, man. I had that for the longest time. And guess what? I ended up with a lot of women like that. Because all the good women run away. Because you're basically accusing them of being something bad. You're basically saying, I don't trust all women. Women suck. And so why would any good woman stay around when you're saying that? Just like you wouldn't stick around with a woman that says, all men fucking suck. Men are assholes. Why the fuck would you spend your time with that woman? She's literally calling you an asshole. You'll go find a nice,
Mm.
sweet, feminine woman.
That's it, man. That's it. And I'm we had to do a lot of work on myself for this, Andy. You had to coach me through a lot of this process, and I'm still working on it, but I understand it so palpably, so viscerally. I've lived
Mhm.
it. I've lived it. This is so critically important, this piece that we're talking about here, because this is in my opinion, what is holding so many men back from realizing their potential. Maybe not so many in our community, because a lot of men in our community are really extremes in terms of their work ethic. That
Mhm.
a lot of what you see here, what their vision is for a very exceptional life. So you see guys who um have taken your advice to heart very deeply, and they've got a very good roadmap. But there's
Mhm.
transparent about myself, an example of a person, and you allude to also, where there was this anger present. And um for me, it was precipitated by, honestly, it was like my own failures, because I had a certain level of
Mhm.
anxiety. When I would talk to women, I'd feel very uncomfortable. And I felt I had to really push myself, and often um, coming across a little bit weird, a little bit, anxious, as you'd imagine. I wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily in a good position, but then it was compounded by certain beliefs that I had around the importance of how you look, the importance of, like, being a strapping kind of feelingless, masculine alpha type of dude, which
Yeah.
we're on a journey, we're on an evolution, and I know who I want to be, and it's not necessarily that, but we'll see where we are in 5 years. But with yourself, Andy, I want to like ask you about the time where you were dealing with this anger, this embitterment, and I'd like to know what for yourself were some of the factors that precipitated that, like, because like me, you
As
had
in
a
the anger?
well, yeah, well, specifically anger towards women,
Okay.
and
That's an easy one. The toxic relationships, the shit relationships.
yeah,
And let's be clear, we've just spent, the last 30 minutes talking about your internal beliefs and your internal emotions and your limiting beliefs and all of that. They get reflected back to you. You put those out into the world and that's what you get back. I had very shit self-esteem, obviously. I was depressed, I was suicidal, I didn't like myself. Even the second relationship where, I'd overcome a lot of the depression, I still had a lot wrong. I was still overweight. I still hadn't fully figured out what my purpose in life was. I felt lost. I felt like I wasn't living up to my potential, all of that kind of stuff. I felt like I was just kind of grinding, like coasting through life. And add all that together, and I had a lot of self-hatred. And you can't really expect a woman to love you when you hate yourself. Like, why would she love you? And so there's this weird, or she'll love you, but why would she not sort of resent you? And so there was this weird sort of like elephant in the room where we both knew, and this is in both relationships, this happened with both girls, we both knew that I didn't like myself. We also knew that they didn't like themselves. Because if you liked yourself, why would you be with someone who clearly doesn't like himself and is very depressed and just isn't really going anywhere and, you know, doesn't have any friends? I had literally 0 friends through both of the relationships, you know, all that kind of shit. And so you have 2 people that both know they don't like each other. And so the implication is, well, we can't respect ourselves. I'm not worth respecting. You're not worth respecting. So we can't respect each other. And I've said this 100 times, and I'm going to talk about this more as I do more content on relationships. The number one thing, and I'm stealing this from Mark Manson, the number one most important thing in a relationship is respect. Above all else, nothing else comes close. Respect. You have to be able to respect the other person. They have to be able to respect you. Respect you as a human being. Respect each other for your accomplishments. Respect them for the hell that you've been through together. Respect their bravery. You can't think that they're weak or that they're, you know, kind of a coward. You have to have deep mutual respect. And that starts with yourself. Someone else can't respect you if you don't respect yourself. And so the relationship was like fundamentally screwed, really. And I think I resented them for staying for so long, especially because I was cheating on both of them a lot of times. There was a lot of abuse, as in they were, especially the second one, abusing me, like physically, verbally, emotionally. And so it was like 2 people that just like, I would cheat and like get caught or just get found out or hinted at it and like, oh my God, fuck you, how can you do this? And then I'd feel horrible. I'd hate myself. I'd swear I was never going to do it again. But it was a self-medication tool. It was really almost like scratching an itch. Like, I'm not happy in the relationship. Could I have something else? And, you know, I've said this in the past, nothing against all the women that I slept with, but I wasn't attracted to them. Let's just phrase it like that. It was very much like a self-hatred kind of sex addiction. It was just fucking horrible. And so through all that misery and pain, I think I lost my respect for women. I think I just saw them as like stupid, that they would put up with stupid shit, that they would be horrible to you, that you couldn't respect them and they couldn't respect you. I just built a very toxic sort of shitty framework. And so I had a lot of hatred towards women, but I don't think I had anywhere near as much as a lot of guys. Because I also, at the other end, it was like I was schizophrenic. I had 2 competing notions. I had the notion that women can't be respected and that they'll put up with whatever shit. But then I also had the other notion of my mother and my auntie and my both grandmothers and another family friend, just so many women, and my auntie, my other auntie, a bunch of women in my life that were just like, absolutely, you fucking respect the shit out of these women. I saw my mother like absolutely just go through some hell. And, you know, she went through her own sort of hell. I won't go into too many details, but her parents divorced when she was like 12 and she left home when she was like 16. She went through like a bunch of shit and it didn't break her. She toughened up, she fought back, and she's one of the most resilient women. Scrap that. She's one of the most resilient people I've ever met in my entire life. My father is like that as well, but, you know, my mother especially. And I think because I had that sort of competing idea that, no, women can be strong. Women, how can I respect all of my female family members, but I don't respect the women I date? And those 2 competed with each other. And I think I wanted to be optimistic. And so I would go through stages where I disliked women, and then I'd go through stages where I loved them to pieces and saw only the good in them. And these 2 would kind of fight. And the thing that won me over was, I've done a podcast on this, the girl that made me stop hating women. She was this Asian girl that I dated for about a year. And she was just the most innocent, lovely, cutest little Chinese girl. She had like cute little cheeks. And she had big fucking titties. I don't know how she was so small and petite. She had like double Ds, like insane. Chinese girls are not built like that, but she was. She had a booty too, and she had like hips. I don't know what the fuck, who her father bred with, but my God. And she was like the sweetest, most innocent, kindest, nicest person ever. We had a really long casual relationship for about 1.5 years. And the entire time, she never did any of the stuff that I was worried about. Like, oh, she's going to nag me for a relationship. No, not one time ever. Oh, she's eventually going to say, like, how come you sleep with other girls? No, not one time ever. Oh, she's eventually going to, you know, push me for something. No, not one time ever. I remember we had a time where we both took LSD together. And on LSD, people are very open, very honest. a lot of people cry, a lot of shit comes up. It's sort of like a healing tool or a counseling tool. And she spent the entire like 15-hour trip doing nothing but smiling at me. And I remember saying, like, literally just
Oh
smiling
my god.
nonstop for like hours and hours and hours. And I remember asking her so many times, like, is everything okay? You know, are you good? And she's like, yeah, I'm really happy. And I was like, what are you thinking about? And she's like, I'm like, what are you thinking about? She's like, I'm thinking that I'm really happy and I really like you.
Oh.
And I was like, is there anything you want to talk about? And she's like, no, I'm really happy. I have everything I need. And I just like, that was just her personality. And it all culminated in she went away for a couple of months back home to China to see her family at the end of the year. And she sent me a Christmas card, like a greeting card. And, you know, it was this long thing. And I thought, okay, she's going to ask for a relationship, or she's going to say she doesn't want to see me anymore. She's going to say we have to see each other more than once a week or something like this. And it was just nothing but a full page of like her expressing gratitude for the memories that we had, for the time we spent together, for me like mentoring her and teaching her some stuff. And she didn't ask for anything, nothing. She just said, I'm really grateful. And I remember reading that. I can remember vividly where I was standing. And I remember just reading that. And I was like, women are really good. Women are really nice. I remember thinking, like, I've tried so hard for the last, like, 2 years or 3 years or whatever. I think it had only been, maybe it had been, like, a year and a half or whatever. I've tried so hard for the last year and a half to find, like to prove to myself that women suck. And, yeah, I found one or two examples fine. Like, it's easy to find people that suck. But, like, the overwhelming majority of the women that I've been with have been really nice, even when I wasn't perfect myself. And this woman right here, there is nothing bad about her. I was literally racking my brain trying to find something bad about her so I could confirm my narrative of like every woman has a secret. And I was like, I don't think she does. I think she's just a good person. And I remember when she came back, I was like, I'm really grateful for you. And she's like, me too. And I was like, and that's it? Like, we can just be nice to each other? We don't have to take from each other? We don't have to get something? You don't have an agenda. I don't have an agenda. It was just such a mind-blowing experience. And from that moment on, I was like, no, I have to be on the same team as women. I have to be honest to them. I have to keep it real. I can't ever lie to them. As best I possibly can, I have to treat them with dignity and kindness. If I ever think that they're in a relationship with me that's bad for them, I have to break up with them as gently as possible, which I've done a couple of times. You know, it was a big turning point for me. So shout outs to her. If she's listening, she won't be. Her name starts with Y. She's going to be the only Chinese girl with big tits in the whole of the country.
Man, that is absolutely beautiful. I love that. Absolutely love that. Speaks to me at so many levels, man. And ain't there just a healing power of connection when you can allow yourself
Yeah,
to be
brother.
vulnerable?
Yeah, and
You
it's
know?
that vulnerability and being shown like nothing bad happens. Because, I mean, people who come into my, group coaching program, a lot of them go through this same thing where it's like they're afraid to be vulnerable with the group, or they're afraid to ask for help. And it's a big deal for them. And I have to tell them multiple times, like, please share. I've done literal podcasts in the group. One of the first things that you get when you come in the group is like, please watch this podcast. It talks about how to ask for help without, losing your masculinity and all that sort of shit. They go through all that. They still struggle to ask for help. When they finally do it and they're met with nothing but complete acceptance from the other men, and really this applies to every single tribe of men, or I mean women as well. My forums are like this. The Good Looking Loser forums were like this. There are a lot of spaces that are like this. There are a lot of like women's groups that are like this. When you come to a group where every member in there just accepts you and loves you and doesn't judge you, and everything they say is to make you a better person, even if they're harsh sometimes, they're doing it to help you grow. Man, that is just fucking eye-opening. You're like, oh shit, like this vulnerability thing isn't as scary as I thought it was. In fact, it's incredibly rewarding. And I can't go back. Everybody who's vulnerable and gets sees the positive benefits from it, every single person goes, fuck, I can never lie again. I can never not treat people like they're on the same team again. I can never not be open and honest with women. Any women that play games with me, fuck that. Fuck that. Every single guy goes through this shit when they try honesty.
That's it. That's it. And Andy, that's for guys who are navigating that negativity towards the world, and then growing, and then towards women, and then growing past that. and then coming to these realizations, and then in your own story, we reach a crescendo where this success is culminating. Your competence, your ability to actually help others to go through this is beginning to really crystallize,
Mhm.
and you are starting to build on the incredible transformation that took place in your own life, the exceptional learning, the
Mhm.
insights, the framework you've developed to help other men, regardless of where they are, who they may be, whether they're black, white, purple, in different parts of the world. You have a systematic approach where we can put it in place and they can begin to go through the same process. You went through the same process I went through. Look at the results. I posted my body progress pictures yesterday. Dude, just give me another year. You're going to see something incredible. I've already lost, 50 pounds. The results speak for themselves. I'm going on a date today, right, with a
Nice.
beautiful date today, dude. A cold approach date, right, with a stunning woman, right. This stuff. We live this. We breathe this. This is our tribe and community. We know it works, and it was a lot of your own insight, your hard work that's formed this, and now we've got a systematic approach that people can go through if they. Uh, we'll get to where people can find you, Andy, and they can go through the same process and have the same realizations. But this is where I want to kind of segue and go into this incredible part of Andy's life where now Andy is transitioning, and these things that saved your life, things that saved my life, you're now disseminating this, sharing this, you know, um, giving it to others so they can save their life, and they can be the best men they can be for themselves, for their families, for their communities, for their place of work, really, and bring more light into the world. So we entered this stage where, Andy, you're building your brand, you're embarking on a journey. There's some exceptional things that happen in this journey. I know little bits about it because you've mentioned, and there's been discussions we've had in the past where I know about how your heart was racing for a year. There was minimal sleep for a year. You're working in debt to build the website. All this stuff. We need to tell people about this. The enormous labor that went behind it. The moving heaven and earth to create the brand, to create the infrastructure, the almost inhuman grind that went into it. Tell us, man. Tell us about where you step up and you say, okay, I'm going to do this, and tell us about that process when you're working, writing articles on the train, working in the warehouse. Let's hear it.
So grind is definitely the right word. A lot of that was self-inflicted. I'll be the first person to say that. So we'll talk about the grind first, and then I'll talk about the self-infliction. So I started my website because a bunch of people nagged me, including Radical. So shout outs to Radical.
Shout out Radical,
And
fucking legend, man.
he's a good person. He's a good dude.
He
And
is.
I started my forums for the same reason, because people nagged me, because the old forums that we were all on, the Good Looking Loser forums, were really starting to fade out and sort of die off. And so I was nagged into that, nagged into writing. And at the start, I think the biggest reason why I started was because on the forums, and this is something, I don't think I've ever actually said this on the air. So, first, shout outs to your podcast. You're getting this the first time. So the main reason I started my website was partly because I was nagged into it, sure. But the reason why I went ahead and did it was because I was posting on the Good Looking Loser forums. I would go in there like 5 times a day, and I would reply to everyone I possibly could. I was a moderator at the time, and I saw it as my mission because this website had helped me so fucking much and changed my life. I was like, I cannot leave any man behind. Like, no man left behind. Every time someone's depressed, I have to go in there and write them, 30 paragraphs making them feel. But I would spend every single lunch break at my job, like literally 1 hour, just writing a long post to like one person. And, I must have done that maybe 300, 400, 500 times, like such a stupid amount of times. I would write literal articles to one person, like a long I'm talking like 20, 30 paragraphs. Like literally it would take me an hour to write it. And I did that so many times that I was like, man, I really wish I didn't have to keep repeating myself. I wish there was some way that what I'm saying to this person, because I've already said it before, I wish I could just refer them to the last time. And I would have to dig through the Good Looking Loser forums and try and find, like, where did I last say this? When did I last mention this concept? And it just became a nightmare trying to cross-reference my old posts and my old replies. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to write a website, and wouldn't it be fucking god tier amazing? I did it for very like selfish reasons. I was like, wouldn't it be amazing if, let's say I'm talking about, one particular concept, wouldn't it be amazing if I'd already talked about that concept and I could just link to that page? Wouldn't that be amazing? And so that was how it started. It was like pragmatic. I can't keep writing 30 paragraphs to every single person. And eventually I did get to a point where I remember this one day. I said to Imogen, it's been like 3 weeks since I wrote a full post to anybody, because for the last 3 weeks, every single person who has asked any question or had any problem, I already wrote some article that could help them. And I gave them the link. And I was like, it's been like weeks and weeks and weeks since I had to write a custom post. How amazing is that? What if I keep going? What if I write 200 articles? What if I write 1,000 articles? What if I, do 1,000,000 articles? Like, what if I get to a point where I build essentially a library of free information that people can just, like, whatever fucking problem they have, they can just search for it on the website. Or, if someone ever says, hey, do you know anything about this? Oh yeah, I wrote like 5 articles. Go read this and this and this and this and this. There you go. And I'm in a very beautiful position where I'm there now. Someone said in my coaching group, I don't know if you saw this, but someone said in the coaching group, something like 75% of the time when I ask a question, all Andy does, he didn't say all Andy, but what Andy does is just reply with an article link. And I was like, yeah, at this point, I can literally just, you give me a keyword and I can just, like, I should write a bot for this that just picks up on keywords and goes, Andy wrote these 5 articles. But yeah, that was why I started that. So that didn't answer your question at all. Your question was, how was the fucking grind? The grind was fucking difficult, man. But a big part of that was, like I said, self-inflicted. So I worked at a warehouse. I had to commute for like 3 hours in total every day. And I would spend that time writing, and I had a shitty laptop that only had about 30 minutes of battery life. And so I would write for 30 minutes, and the bus was like really bumpy. So you'd be trying to write like this, and you'd just like misclick, and you'd close down a web page, and you'd be like, fuck, I didn't mean to click that. You'd mistype. Like, it was really annoying. I got to a point where I would hold my laptop up in the air while I typed with one hand and try and type, because that stopped the bounciness of the bus. And the laptop would die after half an hour, so I'd have to spend the next, 2 hours or whatever writing on my phone. I remember sneaking into the bathroom and having really long toilet breaks so I could type on my phone, like type articles on my phone. I figured out ways of just typing on my phone, but if I would hear the boss coming, I could put my phone under something and then pretend I was working and then pull the phone back out and keep typing. I would obviously type on my lunch break. I would type on the toilet. I would literally type in the shower. I would take my phone into the shower because I would, have all these ideas, and I'd be like, I have to write these down. And so I say self-inflicted. A big part of the reason why I couldn't sleep, I was getting like 3 hours of sleep, was because I was obsessed, man. I just wanted to write. I every time someone would ask a question and I didn't have the answer, or every time someone would say like, man, I'm really struggling with this, and I'd be like, I don't have an answer. Like, I have an answer, but I don't have an article. I'm letting this person down. And not only am I letting them down, but there's probably like 100 other people, 1,000 other people who have that same question, and I can't help them. Okay, I need to write this fucking article. And so I had this like desperate, urgent need to get as much content as I possibly could, so that I think it was, I don't know if it was guilt, but it was like, maybe it was guilt. It was like some form of like, I have to hurry up and help all these people. I don't know whether that was guilt or something else, but yeah, so it was sort of self-inflicted, and especially the grind and the struggle to pay the bills. I struggled to pay the bills for about 2.5 years. It was fucking miserable. A big part of that was because I really struggled to say yes to money. And a big part of that was not feeling like I deserved to. I can't tell you how many of my coaching clients and people like that offered to pay me money, and I was like, no, you don't have to pay me, or no, I'll give you a discount, or like people would want to sign up to the Patreon, and I'd be like, no, you don't have to do that. Like, I even said that to you. You even remember that. You said, Andy, can I PayPal you some money? I was like, no, man, you don't have to do that. So, and that was coming from a place of like insecurity around money, feeling like I would be using people, and really just not understanding the value exchange that goes on. Someone is giving you money because you helped them, or because you're about to help them. But in my mind, because I had all the guilt that, a lot of society puts on you, this guilt around, if you make any money, you're using people. Or money is exploitation, or if someone pays you a lot of money, you must have used them. was this fucked up toxic notion, and it took me a really long time to get over that, and I eventually just got over it because I got to my breaking point. The same way that I've said to guys, and you yourself, if you just go outside and try and talk to women enough times, eventually you have a breakdown. You go, fuck this. I've been out for 6 weeks. I haven't talked to a single fucking woman. What the fuck is wrong with me? And you go up to the first woman, you say, hey, you're really cute. And she goes, oh, thank you. And then you walk off and you're like, fuck, I couldn't, I just did it. It was that. I literally had a fucking breakdown. And I was like, I can't be poor anymore. I'm sick of this. I remember having this sort of really, sincere conversation with Imogen where I was like, I'm fucking done, baby. I'm fucking done. I'm done. I'm so fucking done. I can't do this anymore. I'm done. That's it. No more not paying the bills. That's it. I'm done. I'm fucking done. And then I remember it was like a month later, we paid the bills. And then a month after that, we doubled our money. And then now I'm in a fucking beautiful fucking position. Beautiful fucking position. So, yeah, it's getting to that point of frustration. And really, that's just not quitting. If you just don't quit, you will get to that point. The only reason people don't get to that like fuck it moment is because they quit too early. If you just hang in there, eventually you get to a point where you're like, I can't do this anymore. I have to fix this. And you do. Everybody does.
Andy, it's like observing you for so long, at this moment, a long time. But, when there was early YouTube where you had like less than 50 subscribers, like reading your posts on Good Looking Loser when you were like, I can recall this just as I'm going through like the process of trying to give up and just stop. And I'd always be seduced back in and I'd read just your posts where you do these long posts to guys who are having, mental issues and anxiety and depression and whatnot. And I was overcoming that myself. And I just sit there looking at it like, Jesus Christ, this dude does not relent. I think one thing that perhaps I want to just emphasize a lot is it's the intensity that Andy displayed here was fucking superhuman, dude. It's not referring to writing articles. These are hundreds of articles, dude. And they're extremely high quality, well thought through. It is almost unbelievable that this was possible in those circumstances of financial pressure, of having to, strenuously engage in the world and jobs, in keeping oneself afloat financially whilst going on an endeavor like this and going all in. And, the 3 hours of sleep a night, it's real, it's brutal. And still going up and producing every day, it is monumental. These are things that sometimes get missed. The work that you put in was almost superhuman. It is almost superhuman. At this moment, people might miss that, but like I saw this shit. I saw the relentless, non-stop, day in, day out for weeks, months, fucking years, man, that went into who you are as a person, Andy. And we talked a little bit about that, embracing the grind, but from an outside observer, man, who got to see this shit unfold, from who actually saw like the breakdowns. I can't pay the bills. I can't, and then everyone in the different guys.
Yeah, I did
come
have
together.
several breakdowns, didn't I? I literally had breakdowns. Yeah. Literally, I had
Yeah.
breakdowns where I was like, I can't fucking pay the bills. I'm crying.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't fuck.
Yeah.
I did podcasts and shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is the thing. It's almost like it is no wonder you got to where you are, dude. And it could not be more deserved. It could not be more deserved. How many lives you've touched, how many people's lives you've shaped for the better. I'm in this place right now and not stuck in life because of you, dude. And I'm now doing all these things, and I've got the opportunity to go forward and be successful. I've got the opportunity to go forward and build a great platform in my life and do the things I want to do. And it is largely, I draw inspiration from people like yourself, Andy, who went all in, who put risk on, who went into debt, to the tune of some.
I took out big bank loans. Yeah.
Yes, big bank loans, because you were that determined to make something of yourself and realize your vision. And those fuck it moments, I've had a few of those myself, man. But at this moment, Andy, it seems like a lot of your journey at this point is very spiritual. It is very much one where you've seen these principles of the universe kind of unfold, play out, concretize in your journey. You've seen, if you just have faith, not to give. When you say, just don't give up, really, it's, well, just my spin, right? But with the principles I've learned from yourself, I've just kind of like began to really dive into them and put my perspective on them. And it seems that when you talk about you just don't give up, you just go right into the growth edge where you're uncomfortable, where people don't want to be, and it's miserable because you're stretching yourself beyond where your brain has been adapted to, and where your brain was adapted to was exactly what you always got, which in some cases, in my case, is fucking nothing. So moving beyond that, there is discomfort. But many times in my journey, you had to like reassure me, dude, you just have to keep going. Trust me. Trust me. If you just keep going, you will get there. And it is unfolding.
Mhm.
But that it comes with a certain level of faith, and it comes with a certain level of ability to let go. And in many instances, you've had to have that faith in the extreme when you went into debt, dude. When you went to build the website, but to build the brand, right? You had to really have that faith at a level which many of us, I haven't like, taken that level of risk yet. And it's quite remarkable that you did. So when it comes to like the more almost metaphysical sides of it, where you've had this challenge in the past with money and not wanting to accept it, but the really important thing from my perspective, and that is like when you are serious about this, money is just making a commitment. It's just
Mhm.
putting a system in place where you can continue a process and take it seriously, and really make a firm commitment. And that's really when I've been in the coaching group since pretty much the start of it, and I wanted to make a firm commitment. And I said to you, I'll be in there for years until I achieve my goal, man. And that's kind of the beauty of it. And it is a tremendous blessing to be in the group, honestly. So you had to navigate these challenges of, you know, um, different views, different societal programs that were put into you. And it's almost now you've ascended to an extent where you can see through some of the matrix. And I want to just um, hear a bit of your spiritual growth, and where you are now. Is your view of the human animal different from where it was? Is your view of humanity different from what it was? I'd love to know a little bit more about that.
For sure. Hell yes. But before I answer that question, I want to jump back a couple of paragraphs where you said essentially, that I've helped you grow. I want to make it clear that that's not entirely me. We're all products of those that came before us. I'm very much a product of Mark Manson, Good Looking Loser, Caleb Jones, all those kind of people. And obviously my parents, a bunch of self-help books and all of that. So what I'm doing is distilling down everything I've learned and then passing that on. And the mission is for you or, however many other people to then do the same thing. So I appreciate, and it means a hell of a lot. You know that. I've said that to you, but I want to make it really clear that it's not. I don't think it's fully accurate to say Andy fully changed my life. We've got to acknowledge those that came before because I don't think they should be forgotten. I don't think Good Looking Loser should be forgotten, or Black Dragon, / Caleb Jones, or Mike Manson, or any of those people. So I want to take the time to recognize them. In terms of the spiritual stuff, whenever you say the word spiritual, I know exactly what you mean. My friends and family know exactly what you mean. But a lot of people get put off by the word spiritual. They think we're talking about either woo-woo hippie shit, or they think we're talking about, and I got no problem with woo-woo hippie shit, that's what other people will call it, or they will think we mean religion. And really, when we're talking about spirituality, guys, you can think of it like this. You can think of it like, call it universal truths, or you can call it the meaning of life, or you can call it purpose, or you can call it figuring out what you want to do after you get laid a lot. So we're talking more about the higher concepts, and we're not just doing that to sit there and jerk ourselves off. Oh, my sex life is cool, my money is cool. Let's talk about enlightenment and say that I'm better than everyone else. There's a lot of sort of pride attached to a lot of enlightenment and spirituality. You're not like that, but there are a lot of people that sort of frame it like, I'm spiritual now, so I'm better than you, or I'm enlightened, so I'm better than you. And really what we're talking about, like I said, is concepts of like, big concepts. Like if you're a negative person or if you're in a bad mood, the rest of the world will suck. That's a spiritual concept.
Mm-hmm.
If you're in a good mood, the rest of the world is great. The law of attraction, that's a spiritual concept. So that's more what we're talking about here. We're also talking about like human connection, how we all fit into the universe. What is our purpose? Are we all just fucking atoms? Does the self actually exist? What is consciousness? All those kind of like cool, big, fun topics, which are really fun to sit around and focus on after you've handled the basics in your life. So I'll make it clear that spiritual concepts are extremely fucking helpful, but we're not just sitting there jerking ourselves off or talking about like religion and all that. So all of that out of the way. Now I'll answer your actual fucking question. What does spirituality mean to me? Or how has my spirituality, how have I grown? By more than anything, letting go and accepting that I get a lot of things by not trying as hard. And that sounds like a very basic concept, but that's what people talk about when they talk about like the law of attraction. It's basically don't try so fucking hard and get out of your own fucking way. I can't tell you how many times I sabotaged something by trying so fucking hard that I became needy, or I just, I would get frustrated that I didn't have it yet, and then I would stop trying as hard. Or I would get frustrated that a bunch of girls had flaked on me, that when the next girl came along who's an absolute sweetheart, I would treat her as if she was going to flake on me, and I'd treat her like shit and she'd leave. So a lot of these, a lot of my recent goals have come from literally not trying. I do not try with my coaching. That sounded fucking terrible, but I don't. That's the truth. I don't try with my coaching.
I understand.
I genuinely do not try. I genuinely feel like I put no effort in. And what that actually looks like on a coaching call is complete and utter acceptance, inner peace, love, non-judgment, and a complete knowledge that I will be able to help every single person. So that might all sound like woo-woo concepts, but when you're trying so hard, when you have so much pride and ego, like I did when I first started coaching, where I was like, I want to be a good coach. I have to justify the high price tag. I have to be able to help everyone. I can't ever let anyone suffer. I can't ever be a bad coach. I can't let anyone down. I would try too hard, and I would miss things that now that I've relaxed are plain to me. There are times when you have a coaching client who will just talk to you for like 20 minutes and he'll just dump all of his problems on you. And in the past, I was so fixated on like, I have to be a good coach. I have to be a good coach. I have to be a good coach, that I had this like anxious, unresting energy where I was like, I got to help him. I got to help him. I got to help him. And so as he's trying to just talk, I would interrupt. I'd be like, all right, bro, don't worry about that. We'll fix that. And he's like, you're not listening to me. And since I've stepped back a lot and gone, okay, what happens if I just stop trying to be a good coach and just be a good coach? Like, what happens if I get out of my own way? What happens if I stop trying so fucking hard and just let it happen? What if I just let this process happen? Since doing that, I can now sit there for 20 minutes and someone will talk. And at the end of it, I will literally just say, everything's going to be okay. And there will just be silence for like, 10 minutes. I've done that where there's silence for like literally 10 minutes. And you're both just like, yeah, I guess everything is going to be okay, isn't it? And I can't take full credit from that. I have my own coach and mentor who's very sort of spiritual, and he put me onto a lot of the books that I've recommended. Letting Go is probably my favorite book, but these concepts came from him because that's how he coaches. I will sit there and tell him all the problems, and he'll just sit there and be like, mate, what a great opportunity all of this is. Isn't this fucking beautiful that you have all these chances to grow? And I'll be like, yeah. Why was I being so negative? You're right, this is beautiful. And he's had times where he's just like, everything's going to be okay, Andy. I remember there was one time I was very anxious about something that I had implemented, and I didn't think that I had the discipline to keep this habit up. And I remember saying to him, but what if I forget to do it? And he just really calmly was like, you won't. And just him fucking saying that, I was like, yeah, I guess I won't. And I haven't. I've done it every single day for the last 3 months, this particular habit. And so I've brought that to my own coaching. And really, like I said, that's just you getting the fuck out of your own way. In terms of something, tangible or applicable to a lot of people here, talking to women. What that would look like is, instead of sitting there and going, I got to get a number, I got to get a fucking number, I got to do a good job, I got to be smooth, I got to say all the right things, I got to get dates, I got to get laid, I got to hurry up and lose my fucking virginity. Instead, you take a deep breath and say, okay, eventually I will get a girlfriend, or I will get laid. I know I will. I've seen the process. Other people have done it. Maybe I don't feel like I will, fine. But I have to just trust that I will. Okay. What if I just stop trying with every girl? What if I still do the basics? I still talk to her. I still try and have a nice time. But what if I just focus on having fun with her? And yeah, I'll ask for her phone number. I'll do all the things I need to be doing. But what if I just focus on her as the person? And you walk up to every girl, and now you're filled with this, or you exude this like inner peace, this like comfortableness, this peace and love. And what do we call that? Guys, we call that confidence. You look like a confident guy. You come across as a confident guy who's happy with himself, who's not fucking trying so hard. And then guess what? You get better results because you're coming from a place of like, I'm okay. I might suck at this. This is why my biggest, or one of my biggest philosophies that I push is give yourself permission to suck. That is me saying, let go of this need to be perfect. Stop trying so fucking hard. Just accept you might suck. Just be okay. And when you do that, you soften up, you calm down, you're more confident, you're okay with making mistakes, you're not so uptight and anxious, and you exude all of that to the other person, and they go like, wow, you seem so confident. Wow, okay, sure, I will give you my phone number. So all of that is a roundabout way of saying the biggest thing I've learned is to stop trying so fucking hard and just let things happen. And I'll make it clear you still need to do the things you're doing. You still need to do the right habits. I'm not saying, and this is where people take this idea to the extreme, this idea of like, manifestation. You can't just sit in the corner of a room and say, I want $1 million. No, I'm not fucking saying that. But still keep doing the right things that will get you there. Still keep putting in your daily habits. But you don't have to suffer while you're doing your daily habits. You don't have to try so hard. You don't have to grind so hard. Or you can grind, but you're allowed to enjoy it. You're allowed to just let things come to you. So, more than anything else, we get in our own way. The biggest barrier to success is you. The rest of the world wants to give you what you want. The rest of the world wants women to sleep with you. There are plenty of women that want to sleep with you. There are plenty of guys that want to give you money. There are plenty of people that would love you to mentor them. There are plenty of people that would love to be your friend. There are plenty of people that would love to help you lose weight. There is an abundance in the universe, but you're the only one that gets in the way because you say, I got to try so hard. I got to try as hard as I can. You get uptight. You focus on the negatives. You focus on, but what if I fuck this up? What if I make a mistake? Or you self-sabotage because you're so afraid of success or you're afraid of failure. So you sort of bring on the failure before it has a chance to happen. You fuck it up intentionally because you're scared of going on a date. How many times have we seen that in my coaching group and shit where someone literally won't invite a girl out on a date because, well, but then I'd have to sleep with her and I'm nervous. So I just didn't invite her for a date. If you just get out of your own way, the universe wants to give you whatever the fuck you want as long as you take the steps to get it. But it's always us in the way saying like, I don't deserve that. I'm not good enough for that. I'm an imposter. Someone in the group coaching recently, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, wrote this long post where he said, I am an imposter. Why are you an imposter? You're in your own way. Stop being in your own way. So get out of your own way, guys. Please. The universe wants to give you what you want.
Yeah, it's like when you are in this process, these principles, we call them spiritual, we can call them, really the label doesn't matter. But when you are living the self-improvement life, when you are moving through the process, as we put together on the group coaching program, on the forums, when you are actually at the bleeding edge of life, at your growth edge, really stepping up, going to the plate, going into the heat of battle, whatever you want to call it, these realizations can hit you in a way where it can almost feel quite magical. It can almost feel as if the universe is opening itself up to you and revealing its truth to you. And over the course of time, being in the coaching program, seeing your kind of evolution as a coach is also very interesting. Your style, how, in my opinion, at this moment, you are becoming more potent as a coach and able to facilitate breakthroughs in pretty complex situations. For example, with myself, I wouldn't have trusted many other coaches whatsoever. I can't even think of one I would have wanted to. But even so, given the difficult, tumultuous background and whatnot, you were absolutely on the money in your assessment, and I'm very clear about that. And then you were very, very effective at guiding me through it because it's something you went through that's very similar to yourself. So it is almost about having that space. It is almost having that listening ear, knowledgeable, practical, skilled mentor, and a tribe around you that, in my opinion, really facilitates these things. A powerful group of men who I have every freaking. I posted my body progress pictures yesterday. I got so much feedback today. This is how it is normal for me. We are all aggressively moving together as a unit. We're gelled together. We're a fucking army. We are aggressively carrying every single one of us. Not one man is going to be left behind. We are moving in a forwards direction towards our vision, and that is Plan A. And we are going with Plan A. Don't care about Plan B. Don't care about Plan C. We're going to make this happen, and it's an incredible thing. We're extremely happy about the community you've built, the brotherhood that we have, and the leadership we have from yourself and other people are radical. It's very exceptional, and I want other men to be involved. Other men who are like, I will, the people I'm really, really like. I'd love to get your message, maybe come and work with you. Are life's underdogs, guys who maybe
Yeah.
who've had that tumultuous past, who are fucking desperate, man. That's where I
It's
was.
it's funny you say that, but that's very much who I write my articles for. I'm sure that comes across in my articles and my videos.
Mhm.
Um, I'm writing for the underdog. I'm writing for I always had this. It comes from high school. I had a friend who used to get bullied by everybody in the school. Even the girls bullied him, and not one single person ever stood up for him except for me. And I would get my ass kicked just so that sometimes he didn't get his ass kicked. And that was such a like formative, experience for me, because that was fuck. He got bullied for like 8 years, and that really, really, really instilled something in me that I was like, I would die before I would let someone sit there and be suffered, like, and have to suffer. I think that's why I'm such a libertarian at heart. I don't like people being told what to do. I don't like governments forcing people. I don't like anyone, being an authoritarian. And I think that all comes from, the high school shit. I don't want someone to have to sit there and suffer. So it's interesting that you picked that out. It obviously, I would hope it comes across in my articles, but yeah, I literally write for the underdog, for the person who's sitting at home going, all of the advice that Andy writes doesn't apply to me because I'm a special case. There's something extra fucked up about me, and so I can read his website, but I can't participate. That's why half of my articles literally say, hey, you, I'm literally talking to you. Even you who think this is impossible, here's 20 articles why you can do this. Here's like, I wrote that fucking article, don't kill yourself. And I literally was writing to the person who's sitting there about to fucking kill themselves. I've had, at this point, about 9 emails from people saying, I was literally going to kill myself. And I read that and I didn't. And so that's obviously incredibly that fucks with you in a good way. That really fucks with you. But that's who I'm trying to write to, is the person who's sitting there going like, yep, no, I'm done. I'm done with life. I can't do this. I want to be there and be like, no, dude, you're not alone. Like, you're not alone. I'm here.
That's it. Andy, we understand you are here. We understand that there are many who've watched this, many who've maybe listened to some of your content, maybe read a few articles, but at this moment have understood the journey you've been on, the magnitude of the transformation, which is uncanny. It is unbelievable. It almost feels as if it should have been impossible, but you made it happen. And now you've found a wonderful conduit to support others through the process and guide them through this. Um, I myself have benefited from it tremendously in very deep, deep pit of despair that I once was in. I've pulled myself and been pulled by the community, by yourself, by my peers in the coaching program back into the light. And now we are going towards something that's going to be very incredible. But for those who've listened, who've watched, who now have a bit of fire that is beginning to burn inside them, maybe those doubts that they had have begun to diminish to such that they can entertain the possibility, wait a minute, what if I can too? What do you say to them and how can they find you?
Of course you fucking can. Why wouldn't you be able to? If a retard like me can, you sure as hell can too. That's basically the motto of my website. That's at the top of my website. And you're another good example of a retard who fixed everything and healed
Yep.
a lot of shit.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so if retards like us can do it, of course you can. No matter how shit you are, no matter where you're at, no matter how depressed, no matter how dark, of course you can fix it. I'm not going to say it's easy. It's not. It's not. But as long as you don't quit, you take some baby steps every day, you will get there. So please don't fucking think that this shit doesn't apply to you. It absolutely does. If you're listening and you have ears, this applies to you. If you don't have ears, go and read my articles. If you can't read, get the fucking text to, there's a guy on my forums who's blind and who's improving himself and getting laid and all that kind of shit. So absolutely applies. In terms of where to find me, I'm on YouTube, Kill Your Inner Loser. Also, my website, killyourinnerloser.com, where I have articles. And if you like audio, I'm on Spotify. And all three of those different platforms have completely different content. I don't cross over with each one. So go find me on all of those. And shout outs to you. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm assuming we're winding up and I'm not just doing the exit.
No, no.
Well, thank you for having me on.
And it was an absolute honor and privilege. This was an exceptional interview. I thoroughly loved it, and I hope it is the first of many that we can do documenting both our journeys, both our transformations as we go on and on up to the very pinnacle of human potential, which we are going to actualize and bring others along for the ride and see them undergo their tremendous growth. I just want to, very transparently express that Andy's coaching has pretty much transformed my life. I would wholeheartedly recommend Andy's coaching. You can find it at Kill Your Inner Loser. There are a multitude of options you can choose. Explore what will work best for yourself. Talk to Andy, and we'll find an option that's going to work best for you. But the community on the forum also is potentially could change you at a level which you can't even fathom. It's free, for God's sake. You can go on there today. I did this, and Andy did this back in the day, right? With good looking loser. There is no excuses, man. None. Now you've heard this. Now you've been pointing in the direction of Andy's content, and you can find him. You know where he is. If you don't do it, it's on you, because the help is there.
Let's make it very clear. If you want to do coaching, but absolutely you can change your life with the free forums. And everything that I did was free from the Good Looking Loser forum. So please don't make the excuse. I hear this sometimes, the silly excuse of like, I don't have money. It's like the website's free.
It's free.
Go read all the stuff.
That's it. Andy, thank you so much for making the time today, brother. It's greatly appreciated. I'm going to cherish this opportunity. It was wonderful to hear it firsthand. Also hear some things that maybe haven't been expressed as vocally, but capturing this was really a great blessing, a great honor. So thank you for doing it, and
thank you.
Looking forward to having you on again soon, man.
Awesome. Had a ton of fun. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Andy.